Hello, hello, hello. This is Mr. Smile checking in today with you guys. Today is what, Saturday? Are we on Saturday status or are we on Sunday? What are we doing? Saturday or Saturday? Saturday, right? So it's the game going on this weekend, right? So we got the guys watching the game and everything. So we're doing customer liaison on that, because we're going to do mobile catering for the VAs and the retirees and the disabled. So we remember do the mobile catering for them as well as customer liaison. What I've been doing today is janitorial cleaning, bathrooms, kitchens, linen closets, cabinets, floors, hallway closets, and I've also been doing a little bit of laundry, kind of multitasking thing today, as far as hanging up, pants, shirts, clothes. Not just hanging them up the proper way like you will do. When you go to the cleaners, they have certain ways to hang things. Learning how the cleaners do it. Good job. Beds have to be made a certain way. Towels have to be folded a certain way. So, sometimes we just fold up stuff, put it up. We don't know if there's actually a way to do things, because there's a certain way or direction to do everything, right? So, that's what I've been doing all day. I'm almost done doing the janitorial swap. I do multitasking when it comes to marketing and stuff like that. But I learned the job. To learn the job, you have to learn to be polite and don't forget the criticism, and learn how to listen so you know that you guys are on the same page. And saying that, that's one thing. And then of course it's fall time, so we're going to be doing mobile mechanic with Firestone and NTB, Tire Plus, stuff like that. So we're going to be, they send some of us out to do like diagnostics and stuff. My friend's car has been doing some misfiring of spark plugs, so we've been checking that out, double checking the plugs. You got the correct dealership plugs in. Intake's cleaned out, air filters changed, and we noticed it's still misfiring, so we're not sure, right? So then I said we'll take a step further and make sure that the spark plugs are gapped properly, and they are. So that's done. So now we'll go a step further and we'll say, what is an ignition coil or O2 sensor or catalytic converter? You say ignition coils are the same type of thing with spark plug wires come from the ignition coils on some cars, and on some the ignition coil does not have a wire, it just has the boot area where the plug just sits right on top of, and the computer is made right into each single ignition coil. It's the same concept as the old vehicles that have the distributor cap with the spark plug wires and the little ignition rotary button on the inside that spins around. It wears out, the cap wears out, and as the weaker the spark plugs get, it starts misfiring, and it gives you different type of codes. So when you do a full tune-up, you do a full tune-up. Once you know what's going on with your full tune-up, it doesn't have to be done, certain things don't have to be done all the time. But when it comes to the newer vehicles and the computer part of it, once it's done, if the engine light's not gone off, you want to do a double check. Drive a certain amount, like 100 miles normally, usually clears itself off, unless there's something that's going on. So, ergo saying, if the ignition coils have not been changed and it's still misfiring after the spark plugs have been changed and all the spark plugs are working good, they're working good, and it seems like it wants to cut off, then you have a combination of O2 sensors, ignition coil failure, which means one or two may still misfire here and there, which means it's not going to run up the power, which means that it'd be more gas going into the spark plug, overpowering the spark. It's just like having a 60s or 100 watt light bulb, and it gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer because the wire on the inside of it is slowly wearing out. So the same concept. So in saying that, once we check the engine light the second time around and it's still showing a misfire, and then we'll know we'll have to go to the next step, which is change the coils. So there we go on that. So make sure we double check on our tune-ups. And make sure we put Lucas works pretty good when it comes to fuel injection cleaner. Make sure you read what it says before you purchase it. I do recommend Lucas as far as oil stabilizer for the motors. You know, it's like an assistance, but it's not always necessary in some cars. Older cars, yes, you know. Hotter cars, yes, I recommend. Heavy duty vehicles, I recommend it. And then, you know, we have STP for standard, you know, full ignition, full exhaust, full, what should I say? Full filter, fuel line cleaner, injection cleaner. It's called an induction cleaner when you clean out the intake system, gets all that black corrosion and stuff out of it. You spray it through the intake, through the vacuum system, it blows all of the sensors clean right through to the O2 sensor out the tailpipe. So that's another thing that needs to be cleaned out sometimes, so the O2 sensors can read properly. But sometimes the O2 sensors can also make a misfire. Alright? So have a happy Saturday. It's Mr. Smile saying hello to everybody. Hi kids, hope you guys are doing okay. I'm waiting for you guys. I'll be glad we get back in the house soon. So kind of stay close to the aunties and uncles. You know, I'll be watching over you guys. Alright? Mr. Smiley. And the name is Dezmond. That's Uncle Dezmond Sr., there's Cousin Dezmond, there's a real, that's light-skinned Dezmond, and then there's Mr. Dezmond, Mr. Smiley. Alright?